talking about where you put it.
Yeah.
He
Because
just had
you
another
turned
piece of
that with
wood.
a piece of wood.
Yeah.
Okay. Oop. There we go. That's the front camera here. So this is a square piece of wood, 2 inches thick, and we drew on a little bit of a semicircle too out of the center in the same spot on each of the 4 sides. This was a discovery just through experimentation. I did not have it in my mind that I was going to be making kissing fish. I just like to set aside time every month. Well, I'd love to do it every week, to just create. And so all I did was I took a square and I said, well, let's see what happens if I take a couple of scallops out of each side and then start turning it. And that's what I did. So I did the same size scallops out of each of the 4 sides and put it on my lathe and began turning it. And as I turned, I decided to take a mirror cove out of the tips of each towards the center. And as I began doing that, this fish form began to appear. And I'm looking at it going, hey, that kind of looks like 2 fish. And so I accentuated the turning, and sure enough, I ended up with 2 fish, and the tail fins came together and made that singing bird head, or some call it a turtle head or a snake head. And so that is the kissing fish that we did in class out of that size square form. I'm going to demo a slightly larger piece. And I'm going to pass these around too.
Yes, and he drilled that out.
Let me just make one mention about these.
Oh,
This kissing fish form, so you can see these came out, this is almost the identical blanket, slightly smaller. But these 2 I want you to look at because I went a little bit deeper with the semicircles that we cut out of this one, not quite as deep on this one.
Is that bandsawed or drilled?
The semicircles are bandsawed out.
Okay.
And you want to use about a 3/8 inch blade to make these tight corners.
I was trying to figure out how in the world you turned that out.
Should have seen us doing
Yeah.
it yesterday.
I figured you would chuck it sideways and let it.
I'd like to see you keep trying to figure that out. For me, I'm curious what all can be made out of different forms. So I'm curious imagination, experimentation. As Einstein said, never lose your holy curiosity. I'm not a genius, I'm just curious and I ask a lot of questions. So I like to explore experience, you know, and it's amazing when you just explore things, they lead to new ideas. And so it's just a process. And you don't even really have to have anything necessarily finished, specific in mind, but explore and try new things. And that's what I do with a lot of my work, as you can see. And so I love to explore and take time to just create things that not even knowing what they're going to end up being.
Hold that right.
So
Piece of white paper.
So on with the kissing fish.
Oh, sorry.
This is just a large blank that I'll be turning that we've already bandsawed out. Okay, and again, for me, my preferred mounting process is the expansion chuck. I typically use number 2 jaws on a stronghold.
You gotta be real steady with it.
Hey,
Saw. Turned it to.
Jim, can you bring me one of those waters? Road's getting a little dry. Or somebody?
You didn't go get the rye last night?
I didn't get any rye last night. No rye whiskey last night. I actually was offered some Crown Royal, but I was already dog tired and passed on it. So I have made these kissing fish forms as singular bowls that I haul out with a lid. So you can do these out of, this is a 2-inch thick material. So you can do them out of thicker material and end up with more of a bowl underneath. You got your kissing fish on top, more of a bowl underneath. You can hollow it out. Do whatever you want with it. It's just a really interesting structure. Both the spirit birds and the kissing fish form have won some awards. So, the first thing I'm going to do, I have, is expand this.
Rough saw.
Get room for my banjo.
And you already drew an outside circle on there for a particular diameter.
Right. Yeah, so you want to decide how big we're going to create a tenon here, which eventually is going to get turned into the foot, the base. But we're going to use this as a tenon initially. So I'm going to turn a tenon. This bottom line here is a material that we don't need. The kissing fish.
You get
You
this.
better have a
Okay.
blade and no.
Can you see that? So
To get that
this
curve.
bottom line, excuse me, the material from this bottom line to this edge, we don't need out here. The kissing fish is going to be contained from this bottom line to this top line. And this particular form, you can make them any different thicknesses you want, depending on, you know, how big you want the singing bird head, the turtle head, snake head to be, the mouth to be. In this case, it's going to be 1.5 inches.
There you go, lean it in, there you go.
You can see that 1.5 inches, right? To that bottom line. And halfway between there is the center point. Is your center line, which is 3/4 of an inch. So that's going to be the center of the kissing fish. And so we're going to take a straight edge, which I didn't bring. Oh, here's one. Oh, by the way, when you decide to draw out your kissing fish on a square or a triangle, you can use a template. If you like, or you can create, you can either buy bigger templates too if you want larger. I'm turning some larger pieces. I actually turned my own wooden circles that I use as a template for large. I do some really large kissing fish, much larger than the samples I have here. But that's an easy way to just decide, you know, how to draw this out. On the one thing I didn't show you, if you look at the pieces that they came around, you'll notice there was a cross line around about 1 inch inside on the top. And that gives me the depth of the of each semicircle. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and use a pencil. And at that center line, I'm just going to, because this will show up in the ghost imaging, you'll see the center line. Kind of draw that in. Once you've got a band sawed out, go ahead and draw it in. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to help you visualize as you're turning the piece. This will show up. And when you're creating your mirrored code, this will help you decide how close you're getting from each side. And that's all we're going to be doing is taking away material. Very good. Now for this, I'll put on my shield. We'll kick up the speed a little bit. And I understand you had Jimmy Clues here recently.
Yeah.
And he talks about speed, which is great. You know, anything can be done safely if it's all dependent upon how cautious and careful your turner is. And this is a pretty much perfectly balanced piece. It's not out of balance. You can turn it at a high speed. The lathe is not going to shimmy. It's not going to vibrate. If you have really super good close lighting, you can see the ghost imaging real well. You know, I always teach mark your tool rest. So this is where the outer tip hits,
Right.
and this is where the inner mass is.
Look like
From here on in is all solid mass. So the top,
Yeah.
There you go.
You're on.
are we okay?
Yeah, we're okay.
So again, we'll mark the outside here, and we'll mark the mass, the exterior where the mass ends, and everything from here is all big air. But right here is where the body of the kissing fish is the widest, right here. And so what we want to do is create a cove from this point to this point. So we're going to be in and out, in and out, in and out. And then from the other side, in and out, in and out, in and out. Now I'm going to go ahead and create my tenon, remove this material first, and then we'll start doing the mirrored coving. And again, the bull guides. And if you want to wear a fine-fitting glove, you guys have heard me say this before, biking glove is great because they're nice and tight. And when I turn at a high speed, a lot of times, I'm in the habit of wearing one on my left hand. Just sometimes, especially if I'm doing large winged birds, you know, at 2,000 to 3,000 RPM, the speed out here, your miles per hour is so fast out here. And if you're doing a 20-some inch spear bird, the wings out here are really zipping. And the heat coming off there, the chips, you know, hit me right here. And so I like to have a little bit of a protection right there. So,
Mike, can you turn that light, cock that light down just a little bit?
is that okay for everybody?
Dave, it might be better over here.
Oh well, come on. See where he does.
One of the other benefits of turning at a high speed, big air pieces, is if you turn too slow speed, you have a tendency to get trailing edge tear out. You can get chipping and fracturing and all of that as well. The higher the speed, and the more careful the tool work, properly shaped and sharpened tool, you can turn these without having to apply a super thin fast CA glue at the trailing edge tear out. So I'm not going to apply any today, but I do like to teach, it's safer to go ahead and apply the super fast thin CA glue in this top section here of each of the 4 tail fins. I'm not going to go ahead and do it because I'm going to turn it at a pretty high speed. So that's sort of the normal pace. I'm still just a little bit shy. I'll go just a little bit deeper here. It's pretty curly maple, and my tenon is relatively established. I might go just a hair deeper here. I want to get at least, for me, I want to get at least 2 rungs of the interior teeth on the jaws to grab the tenon. Normally, again, when I teach, I try to go 3/8 or so you can get 3 rows of jaws for the students. I'm pretty confident getting 2 rows of teeth on it. It's going to hold wonderfully well. But just in case, of course, we've got the nice shield.
Is there any reason why your tenon on that side so big? I mean, could you go down to a 2-inch tenon?
You can make it any size you want. It depends on the design of your piece and what you want to utilize it for. This is a piece I would probably, for me, I would probably create a secondary large vase to put under it and have the kissing fish. And when I do that, let me kind of explain. Are the kissing fish that go with this anywhere near it?
Probably toward the back.
Okay, so let me explain we do this. I like to have the extended, the kissing fish square. The square is going to be a smaller diameter than the diameter of the vase.
Right.
But diagonally, the square can extend out to the diameter of the vase. If you extend the kissing fish too much further out, you kind of, aesthetically, it doesn't look as good. So on this piece here, thank you, Dave. I'll let you hold that one, just put that back over there. This one, I extended the kissing fish out quite a ways. This was more of a cosmic, drastic piece. But in reality, most of the time, I make the kissing fish smaller than this so that the diagonal edge of the kissing fish is close to the same diameter as the base. I like the way that looks aesthetically, real pleasing to the eye. But since I went so deep into the kissing fish on this one, I made the kissing fish extend out further too. And so I think aesthetically this one still works. But typically I would not make them the kissing fish this big on a vase of this size.
What did you use for your texturing?
So George Jones did the texturing. He has a dental Dremel type tool with all these different bits he attaches.
So sure.
So this is the first step. Is now I'm let me just measure this. You want to? I need to read through the top. Okay, yeah, I'm at the width that I want. Problem. Maybe the first thing you should do is true the top. Just get that established. I actually true this piece at home before coming here, but you know when you remount it, it's not always running exactly in the same plane. Let me just slightly retrue this top. And the beauty of these lights, you know, when you're turning air like this, get the light every time you maneuver your tool, rest, and reposition where you're going to be applying the tool to your work. Adjust the light so that it's real close to your tool work. Especially when you're looking at ghost imaging wing pieces like this, which I call big air pieces, you want to have that light wonderfully close. And so the motion I could go ahead and explain. We want to do a closed shear position with the bowl gap.
Can you get that right?
So that's open,
Right.
and that's closed to the material. Still the bottom edge is hitting the wood,
Right. Yeah.
but it's closed. And then with the handle down, when the handle is horizontal like that, that's more of a scraping position. When the handle is down, you get that
Slicing.
shear
Yeah,
slicing.
Yes.
And that's what you want, is a shear slicing position to true the top. And very light pressure, you know, it's a non-aggressive position with the bowl gap. So the tool is pretty much between my arm and my body. You know, I've got my hand here supporting the tool. And so I'm not out here freehanding this. You know, when you've got a wing piece turning at a high speed, you want to have great control of your tool. So I've got it locked in to the back of the tool, and I'm just sliding my body forward. I'm not sliding my arms forward, I'm sliding my body forward. And very light pressures. And it doesn't take much to just screw up like that. And I might do a couple more slides. I always go from the outside in, and the way to approach this, I find you get the best results, is to barely eat your tool up to it until you're just barely feeling contact with the wood, and then slide your tool forward. What happens if you start from the inside and pull out, you have a tendency to over-press on your way out, and you will shorten the width that you have here at the tip. So I always start from the inside, barely make contact, and then scoop my tool in to true up the piece, okay? All right, so now I'm ready to start attacking this piece from either direction. And so all I'm doing is creating a mirrored cove that it, so the piece is going to come. We're going to end up down and up and down. Funny, you're going to pay attention really to how this is shaping up here, where the fish come together and kiss. We're really paying attention to how the body is shaping up from the edge of the tail fin or the open part of the mouth on down and then back up. So we're just creating one mirrored cove on each side. Couldn't be any simpler to understand. And of course, even though I can see it, I want to make sure that my marking is correct on this side. So that's going to be where the mass of the piece begins and where the thickness of the body is at its greatest. Okay. Let's go ahead and so again, you'll notice that it's my body that's moving. The tool is pretty stable between my arm and my body. And I'm just rocking back and forth, just going in and out, in and out. It's all body motion. I call it Tai Chi. Some people call it the woodturner's dance. It's that kind of movement. That way the tool is super stable at these high-speed wings, and it's more dangerous to have the tool extended out here loosey-goosey, and a slight mistake and you're in trouble on these big wing pieces.
Mike, you're also entering that, not with the tip, or you're a little bit of the wing.
Barely under the tip.
Yeah,
Barely under the
You
tip.
don't catch a tip.
You don't want to catch the tip. And that's the beauty of this shape of grind, where you've got that long swept back, but it's got an outer curve to it, a gentle outer curve all the way to the tip. You can make these cuts with more aggressively and more safely than if you had a straight line. You just can't do it. You're gouging the material instead of nicely shaping the material. So I still have a little ways to go to get to that center line, but you see it's beginning to, where are we at here?
I was going to show your body motion. No,
So you can see we're beginning to create the curve on this side, which is fine. I need to go in a course deeper, but it's just barely beginning to take shape. And I haven't gone deep enough that this portion is getting cut yet. But that'll happen here with a few more, several more passes.
Creating so much wind, it's shaking the camera up top.
Oh, is that what's going on? Oh, funny. Well, we need to put a little stabilizer bar on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see how the kissing fish is beginning to, from overhead, beginning to take shape on the top half of the body. I still have a little bit more ways to go on this side. All right, we're getting there. Yeah, getting in a nice shape.
Yesterday, we were trying to do this, and a lot of us couldn't see it because we didn't have the light. We couldn't see the code. We had no idea.
Right.
We could have been turning blind. But looking at the overhead light, I can see the code very clearly.
Yes.
Is it the type of light, or can you see it really clearly on the side using your light?
With the light here, well, first of all, of course, I have a lot of experience, so for me, this is almost secondhand. So to be clear, yeah, putting the light, first of all, close to where you're cutting is absolutely crucial, which is why in my class tool list that I sent out, I highly recommended if there weren't Aurora lamps on the class lays, and if you have them, please bring them. Because when you're turning wing pieces, the only way that you can see the ghost imaging well is with a very bright light positioned in the right spot. And the lathe lamps, and they're very nice for most turning, the lathe lamps that come with the club lathes that you have are fine for almost any purpose except for turning big wing pieces. You've got a 30-inch long neck here, and this can be placed anywhere on the lathe that you want. And wherever your tool work is, you're going to have fantastic lighting. You're going to be able to see the ghost imaging. So it's absolutely critical when you're turning large wing pieces at a high speed to have a lathe lamp that can be positioned to your not only turning advantage in terms of getting the work done to your satisfaction, but also safely. If you don't have exceptionally bright light positioned like I'm doing here, you have a safety issue which is paramount. And so I was concerned, Susan, with a couple of the individuals, such as yourself, that did not have a quality light. But
you couldn't see it at all.
that was amazing you did so well.
You
Yeah.
didn't see it.
Right?
You didn't see it before I left.
Oh, is that right? Oh, well, okay. I thought you did real well, up until that point.
Are we at a point where we can take a break? About 10 minutes?
We can.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have, where are we at? I have the natural edge still to do too.
We got 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's take a break.
10 minutes.
Okay.
Now, did that, shield come with that do-rag?
My wife made this do-rag.
That was clever.
You know,
I'm
yeah,
seeing now some sleeve.
you know, a three-quarter sleeve, like a jersey sleeve.
Baseball jersey.
Yeah, cut it off. Velcroed it on. Velcro on. Yeah, it's great. You know, I don't have to wash my hair every night. I can wash it once a month now.
Line it up to a ponytail.
Yeah, it does look a little funny, doesn't it? Hanging off the back. But it works great.
Dreadlocks out of it.
Yeah, my wife said you made that.
You did a good job.
Oh, I got
Get
glasses.
something so you can pull down on it. Built-in sweat rag. Here we go.
All right. So, I'm gonna make a few more cuts on this side. This side will be done, mirror this side. And we should wrap this piece up. I do want to get into the natural edge as quickly as possible and show you how I designed that piece. I don't need to finish that piece for you, but I'd like to show you the process of setting it up so that you can create that piece. That natural edge piece is a very elegant form that has also won some awards and sold very, very well. I just had one sell last week for $1,800. But I make them all different sizes, and it's just a beautiful form. All right, so let me work on this piece here just a little bit more. And let's do it. Put the right where I like it. Put on my left-handed glove, just so I'm used to it, and cut that. I think that's close enough.
Now, what you're doing there, you'll do the same thing on the other side, right?
Now, the other side, I just want to mirror that same code cut. And I'll manipulate the tool a few different ways on this side. When you're turning at a good speed and you have a very sharp, well-shaped tool, it makes the turning much easier, much easier. Just naturally, of course, it seems more dangerous because you've got a higher speed, and and that's a good thing that you know it enhances your awareness. Yeah, it is exciting.
So they make you see more lives
You know,
almost dying?
What was it? Henry Ford said, obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your hands off of your goal.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with turning. You got to have great focus. And the important thing is the kissing fish we did in class was smaller. To get good at big air turning, it truly enhances your level of skill. And you transfer that skill level through all projects. Much simpler projects will become more efficient, more confident. So to practice on big air turning, start with something small, smaller square, triangle, and gradually go bigger.
What's the size y'all did yesterday?
Right there.
That size,
About
what you're doing right
that
there?
The size we did yesterday, yeah, a little bit smaller.
What's that, about 8-inch?
Yeah, probably. Maybe 7 1/4.
Okay, close enough.
7 1/4. Yeah. And start small, get comfortable turning air, and gradually expand into bigger pieces, and your confidence level is going to boost. And especially if you're using a well-shaped and sharpened bowl gouge.
Mike, talking about the bowl gouge, what size is that?
Well, a lot of people call it a 5/8 OD. Yeah, sorry about the light. There we go. But yeah, 5/8 OD, half-inch interior. This is my primary tool for, for really small projects. I might go down to the half-inch. But rarely any other tool. This is what I predominantly use. But shaping it, again, sweep back the wings very, very far. And the key is, I know you have a jig guide set up here to extend your tool an 1 3/4 off of the Wolverine
Right.
handle jig. But for this type of grind, I extend it off 2 1/4 inches.
Okay.
2 1/4 inches. And that allows you the mobility, the full span and distance to get the wings swept further back. And again, a real smooth transition with an outer curve from the wing to the cutting toe. Very, very slight curve. It just provides you with so much more safe, efficient turning.
Do you use a CBM wheel?
I use CBM wheels. Yeah, absolutely. So you'll notice as I make, several cuts, and then I'll pull the tool away and look at the line of fire. Every time I look at the line of fire, I can see the shape, so I don't need to stop the lathe really. And I see how it's developing. Then I just come back and do some more work, stop, look at the line of fire as it's spinning, and then continue on. So when I'm turning, I never stop the piece until it's done. But it's important to share that with you because as you turn these structures, and then you pull it away and you look in the line of fire, the ghost imaging shows up really, really well with nice lighting. And so nice lighting is key. At my lathe, at home, I use two. I have 2 Aurora lamps, one on the top of the headstock and one back here. And I just manipulate them to give me really excellent lighting as I'm turning the wing pieces. And it makes such a big difference. So I'm going to smooth out this bottom piece and graduate that into the tenon area. Do a little bit more depth here, and this kissing fist structure will be almost done. Let's see what we've got here. I think we're pretty close. So we have an excellent structure going on here. We're looking from the top?
Yep.
Okay, good. So you can see that. And I'm not concerned about how close these are because when I'm actually done with my carving, we're going to take the sander to this and bring that point in, and they'll come right together and they'll kiss. The last thing we want to do is create the mouth opening. And I do that while spending with the bull guides. A number of students in class yesterday did it that way too. The ultimate safe way of doing this is the scariest part of the whole piece, or as I consider it the most exciting part of the whole piece, is creating the tail fins with the open mouth that come together here. And the safest way is to draw it, right, and use a little hacksaw. And you can cut out the teeth, which would be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to show you how I do it with turning. And I could get this a little bit thinner right here on each side. I might go ahead and just take it in a little bit more on this side. I'll do a few more cuts on this side, and then I'll go ahead and do the tail fin and talk just a touch about sanding. Yeah, I think that's great. Okay. The only other thing, if you could... So we're a little bit narrower in the body on this side, a little bit taller rounded thickness of the body on this side. So I'm actually going to do 1 or 2 more cuts and thin this out to match this side. And then we'll be ready to do the mouth, the tail fin opening. And I like that. I think we're right where we want to be with the kissing fish. You'll notice when I made the final cuts there, again, everything is nice and tight against my body. And it's a body motion. I'm taking such thin slices of wood at a nice high speed. Very, very thin slices of wood.
You still use a closed position, it's hard to tell. Still got it.
Yes.
Well, the tool is closed between my arm and my body, but it's a fairly open, more aggressive.
Move your light back.
Sure.
Going that way,
Wait, there you go.
and you'll see, he has it.
So the tool is fairly open.
Okay.
It's not closed. It's fairly open here because we're making some more aggressive angle for cutting, but it's very non-aggressive in the amount of wood I want to take off. Very, very slender amounts of wood. At this speed, and when you're taking very slim cuts, it's wonderful. You know, you're not going to get the tool hot because you're taking such thin slices and you're making cleaner cuts. Now I've slightly altered the shape, so I'm going to come on this side and match it up. Yeah, no, we're fine. We're fine. And actually, let me make one more cut on this side, just to make a little bit of a bulge on this side of the fish.
One more cut.
The fish don't have to be exactly mirrored, you know. Yeah, this is kind of like the early Christian symbol of the fish, a very simple fish form. eliminated the hump. Let's take a look at it. Oh, that's better.
It seems
We're good
like-
now.
It seems like the way you're cutting on that particular part, you're cutting uphill. To the
Yeah, I am cutting uphill, which does give you more grain pullout, right? If you're cutting downhill, in other words, from the inside out, up the bottom of a bowl, you get cleaner cuts. You always do. So coming from this direction, the shape that we're working on is you want to get it right? And so I find the easiest way to control the shape is to cut this direction.
From the outside in.
From the outside in, even though traditionally, when you're making a bowl, you always get cleaner cuts going from the inside out at the bottom of the bowl. Always do. But again, at a high speed, with a nicely sharpened tool, and you're taking off such a small amount, the amount of tear out you get is so minimal. I mean, I can easily start this with, I'm guessing 150 grit. And that, normally you can't do that. You're starting at 80, 100 grit. I could probably start this with 150 grit and be fine. I got a little crack that's going to need to be filled in right here at the base, but that's no big deal. That has appeared. Anyway, so this kissing fish is done except for the most exciting part.
Have you ever tried cutting the mouth out there first before you do the shape?
Yes, and then you have to be exceptionally careful at shaping this, right? It sounds safer to cut the mouth out first because you got more mass supporting it at that more exciting area of the item. But I like to shape the fish first because that ultimately tells me what I need to do with the mouth. If, say for example, I got a little careless and shrunk down the tail fins, and I already created the mouth. Okay, wow! I just ruined the length of the piece. All of a sudden, it's shortened because now I'm digging into the mouth that's already been established. So I like doing the mouth last, or the inside of the kissing fish, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to arrange my tool rest so that one of the marks is already at one end of the tail fin and another mark at the other end of the tail fin. And that's just another added visual, Oh, and I want the inside of the mark to be a fat mark, to be about 1/8 of an inch inside. The end of this mark to be about 1/8 of an inch inside this piece. I want to make sure my tool does not enter on this side of the mark, and I'll know I'm safe. Now I just like, I'm sorry if this kind of screws things up. See if I can do it this way. Well, you'll notice that I'm looking down here when I enter the tool maybe, but ultimately I'm going to be looking up here as I progress with the tool. And the reason is because I can see the ghost imaging far better up here than I can down here. And you all in class notice that, right?
No.
No?
Can we move that light can we move that light just a little bit, right where you're cutting?
Oh.
The tool is gonna be. That would be good. You can do something
Yeah,
like
for
that.
safety for him.
Is that okay?
Yeah, just make sure it's good for you.
There. We all right?
That's good.
Contact. so you reach a point, can you see the ghost imaging on the top? Did that show up pretty well? So you reach a point where you go, okay, I think that's effective enough, and we've got a nice depth. We might be a little bit thicker here than on this side, but you can you can compensate that for sanding. What you want to do is leave a thickness here that gives a little bit of stability to the tips of the tail fins. If you go too thin, just a slight bump, right? You want to be careful that you don't want to break these tail fins off. So I like to leave a little bit of a mass.
Tail fins and beaks.
This is maple, so it's fairly hard. If it was bobinga, at twice this hardness, more than twice this hardness, I might go a little bit thinner on the tail fins because the wood is so strong and has a nice interlocked grain. Bobinga, purple heart, some of these other woods that would, if you could ever get a piece of ebony this big, I mean, the grain pattern on such like that, you can do these tail fins, open mouths a little bit thinner. With maple, I think that's nice. It's got a good thickness, a good stability, and it's an effective, look to the piece. So we've got the tail fins, the turtle head, snake head, singing bird head thing going. I want to show you real quickly before moving on to the natural edge how I sand these. And you just start with the low grip. I power sand everything except for the open mouth. And I want to show you how you sand the open mouth. I'm not going to spend any time doing it. But I use this, it's just a spackling or a
Body shaping thing.
body shaping thing for cars, exactly. And it's got a firm, real hard rubber tip on it that comes to a nice edge. And I just put the sandpaper right over that. You've got a really nice size gripping element with a lot of sanding power. And I just go through the grits. And that's how I sand the inside of the mouth. It couldn't be any easier. If you want to lock it into a position, instead of having to hold it with your left hand, that's fine too. So that's how I sand the inside. Everything else is power sanded. And just real quickly on that, I power sand everything except for the open part of the mouth. And it's important to choose the right kind of sanding elements, for this kind of a situation. I find that using a 2-inch mandrel with a 3/4 inch wavy interface pad to support wavy sandpaper gives you the safest undulation for this kind of a piece. You can go in and out of this piece wonderfully because of the amount of flexibility you have here. And the wavy discs give you that extra safety feature of sanding without cutting into the wood in these kinds of situations. So to bring the kissing fish together here at the center, you just shape it. Just come in a little bit. Could be easier. And they're together. Kind of hard to see, but it brought them right together. And that's all there is to it. Now you've got the beautiful kissing fish. And I just power sand everything. Boom, boom, boom. This will go in and out of the fish beautifully. It undulates, with the piece as it's spinning. So this I find to be by far my favorite setup. Just marvelous. And of course the wavy sanding disc to go over the 3/4 inch interface pad. There's 1/2 inch wavy interface pads as well, and they work beautifully as well. In this kind of a situation, I like getting the 3/4 just because it gives you that extra adaptability. And again, I won't finish the whole piece. I just want to get it started and show you how we shape it.